Test. 1, 2, 3, 4. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. The basketball show. We're live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. My name is Neil Rowe, the voice of the Golden Grizzlies. Of course, he is the coach, Greg Kampe. Coach, I apologize, but look at that crowd on the screen there going across the YouTube channel. How about that?
Looks better than really what it is, probably.
Magic of TV, Camp. The magic of TV.
Remember the last show last year?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact.
Maybe we got to win again like that.
Yeah. but try. You know, maybe we can do that and get it all set back up, though. But Camp, I'll tell you what, man. All in all, a pretty rock solid road trip, in my estimation. And you look at the way certainly Golden Grizzlies played defensively. You know, played really good. The zone picked up. It gave Illinois some problems. There's no question about that. Had its moments too against Kansas. Kind of your estimation of the road trip.
I think for this team this time of year, other than getting 2 wins, I don't think it could have gone any better. You know, I think that where we're at in our development to play 2 top 20 teams. You know, we've played 3 straight games against top 30 teams. You know, Illinois, I don't know what they came out in the ranking today. I vote in that, and I think I put them at 13 maybe. But you've got them, and then you've got the #1 team in the country in the most historic building in college basketball. You know, I call it the Mecca of college basketball. And for our guys to go into those 2 places and compete the way we competed, I don't know if we could have been any better than that, other than to get wins. And honestly, we're not ready to win those games yet. But as I told them today, those games are going to get us ready to win. You know, in March, if we get back in the same situation we were in last year, where we could go in and beat a Kentucky, the way we played the second half at Kansas, the way we played the whole game at Illinois, that will prepare us when we get to March, if we're fortunate enough to get in that situation again. What it did also show me is that, you know, we have the ability to get to March. You know, I think we do, and the reason I believe that is the amount of improvement that I'm seeing defensively is phenomenal, and we're still missing, you know, our best defender. And when we get back with the way these guys are learning and getting better at trusting each other. The biggest thing about that zone is when somebody makes a mistake, and they're going to, because it's complicated. When somebody makes a mistake, another guy's got to pick them up, and we're starting to see that. We're starting to see a guy make a mistake, and you'll see somebody flying at the ball, where earlier in the year at Boise and Rochester and Defiance, you saw somebody standing wide open and staying wide open, right? And so just learning that you can make a mistake, and it's okay to make a mistake, because, you know, your buddy next to you is going to pick that up for your mistake, is going to make us better. And then when you add, as they grow and get better, we're going to add 6'7", 230, you know, to the top point of that zone, who's last year was our best defender. You know, it's only going to put us in a really good situation. So I'm really pleased with that. You know, I'm disappointed in the way we're shooting the ball, but, you know, a lot of teams, it's November, you know. We were talking before the show, we were like that last year too, and it just takes, you know, a couple games to get it going. And once they do, they'll get their confidence. If you come watch us practice, we make them in practice. We're capable of shooting the ball. Do we have a Jack Golke? I don't know. I think we have a couple guys that could do that. I think DQ could have a game where he makes 8 threes. I think both Christie and Woodridge could have an 8 to 10 made 3 game. But they're not going to have those until they have a 4 or 5, right? And they've got to have some success. And we're just not shooting it very well now. But we're starting to execute better. And remember this: we're doing it against the elite in the country. If you watch the last 10 minutes of the Illinois game, we held. It's 45. It was either 55-45 or 45-35. I can't remember. It was a 10-point spread. I think 55-45 with 10 minutes to go in the game, and with 4:40 to go in the game, Illinois still had 45,
right,
or 55. Problem was, we still had 45, and you know, we got 7-8 straight stops at Illinois. You know, and the fact that we could do that, the problem was we just could not put the ball in the basket, and we got a lot of really good looks. We got second shots. Kansas, big size, 7-footers. They only had 8 offensive rebounds in the game. Was it 8 or 6? I think it was 6.
I believe it was 6.
Yeah. They only had 6 offensive rebounds in the game. They missed 24 shots. They had 6 rebounds. I don't know if I've ever had a team ever at Oakland that could go to the number 1 team in the country, play a game on the road, and only give up 6 offensive rebounds.
I don't recall that happening ever.
And it's, you could say, yeah, it could happen because they didn't miss any shots, but no, they missed 20. The percent. You never look at Joe Fan looks at the number of offensive rebounds, the statistics of it, the vitals of it, as you would say, are what's the percentage. And 6 out of 24 is about where you'd want to be, what you would expect to give up against Wright State or against Northern Kentucky, and we did that with Kansas. So that should mean that against the Wright States and Northern Kentucky, we should only give up 3 or 4 if those numbers play out as they have in the past. So that was a huge take from it. In the first half against Illinois, they had 8 in the first half. They only had 4 in the second. They had 2 in the last minute of the game. So they really, for 19 minutes in the second half, only had 2 offensive rebounds. Those are the things that you have to look at as you're trying to figure out, okay, how is what we're doing against these great teams going to, play out when we get to our level? And I hate using the word our level because I think we all want to be, with who we're playing now. The real is that realistic on a night in and night out basis? Not right now, but maybe someday it will be. But right now it's realistic to say we can play with those teams because of what we did last year and what we've done in the past. 14 Power 5 wins. And, we could have had one on Wednesday, and we didn't.
Greg Kampe Show and the Oakland Basketball Show brought to you by Henry Ford Sports Medicine, the official team physicians for Oakland University and you. For more info, visit henryford.com/athlete. You can get involved with the show as well on Twitter, as I call it, even though I guess technically it's X. Either way, you guys know what I'm talking about. Send a tweet or a post with the hashtag AskKampe. We will get to those coming up in a couple segments on the show. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and fire away your questions on the YouTube stream as well. I will monitor those also. But Cam, here's what I walked away with, and you tell me, because I'm a dumb media guy, man. Like,
yes,
100%. And I don't dispute that.
Everybody.
I don't dispute that, Cam. But I've seen a lot of these games, so I noticed some commonalities. Here's the one that jumped out to me at the Illinois game. When it got rocking, which it's going to get rocking in Illinois because the building sold out, and it's an electric, probably one of the more underrated atmospheres in college basketball. It got rocking. I believe we fell behind 21-9. And we made that run, and we made that push. I don't dispute that, but I've seen a lot of these games. So I know we're down 2 in the second half of that game. And Camp, I put a lot of stock into that. And maybe the common sports fan doesn't understand that. But if you go into the eye of that storm, when that building's rocking, and you're down a dozen early, and you come back and you close it to 2 in the second half, that caught my attention, Camp. Am I off base on that?
No, and I think it's even bigger was the second half of Kansas. Because I've taken teams into Kansas that were great basketball teams, championship-level basketball teams that won our conference championship, and the second half was always, you just can't do it there for 40 minutes, and as it erodes, it disintegrates quickly there, and 15 becomes 30. I mean, Kendrick Nunn's team lost 102 to 60 something, and we thought going into that game we could win. Right, and Jalen Hayes didn't get to play in the game. That hurt us. But we went into that game thinking this is the one time we can go to Kansas. And a similar game early, but the second half went like this. And the other night, the second half, we won this. We outscored them in the second half. And you can say, well, they played the last 2 minutes of the second half with the guys that don't play, but so did we.
Right.
So, if you look at the first 18 minutes of that, it was, I don't know if it was a 1 or 2 point game either way, but we played with them. We took a 20, they scored the last 6 or 8 points of the first half to go up to 22, I think. We got it down to 15 or 16. We were chipping away and playing and finally made a couple shots, but we were guarding, we were getting stops, and they weren't getting rebounds. And And then as we got a little tired, we made some mistakes, but again, we're running through things defensively, and we're running through a 7-1 guy that in our league is going to be a 6-8 guy, So Woody just not quite getting it, a couple loose balls that rolled around and were in our hands and ended up in their hands. Those things you expect in those games, and we were, to answer your question, I think that was even bigger than Illinois. I just think that, we were down 21-9, we got it to 22-19, gave up 2 threes, then got it back to, I think, 2 early in the second half.
36, yeah.
Yeah, and then they went, it got to be 40-38-6, and they made 2 threes again. So it was all 10-12 right there. For most of the game, we kind of hung in there. When it did get to 1 or 2, they made a couple big plays, and that's what top 20 teams do. And we're not a top 20 team, but that doesn't mean before this year's over, we can't be beating those teams.
And Kampe, to follow up with the Kansas thing, and you touched on a little bit there, but for me, to keep the lid on that arena, which that's my walkaway. We kept the lid on the arena.
That's a good way to put it. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah, even a blind squirrel finds nuts and then, right? But I think that's a really good way to put it, and it could have easily been 110-59, and that's what they do.
And they were waiting for it. Like, you could tell that whole building was waiting for that, and we never gave them that chance.
And it's because A, we have good players, and B, we can score in the post. And when you shoot post shots in a game like that, when you're shooting threes and missing their long rebounds and the length and the speed that they have, they can beat you to the ball. Like, there was that play where we missed a shot and Jalen Jones jumped in front of the guy. He probably did travel, but they're never going to call that there. In the NCAA tournament, that would get called. But and he spun, and then he took it on the fly, and he went by Christie like, Christie said, I'm not going to let you dunk on me on SportsCenter, right? And, and he went flying in there and made an acrobatic shot. That's what happens in those games when you shoot threes, miss, and you get the long rebounds, because we're scoring at the rim. And Allen did a nice job, and Brew both did nice jobs of finishing in there. We didn't finish well early, but it was very, very physical. But as the game wore on, we started finishing out. And I think Allen had 19 and Brew had 14 maybe. And so by getting those close shots, you're not giving them fast breaks, and they're having to come back and play against our defense. And our defense is pretty darn good. And so when you make them play 5-on-5, we've got a chance. And that's why they couldn't blow the lid off them.
And I did want to chase that too, Kampe, because you brought up Alan Mukeba. And I'm going to say this, and this is a media take here, but it's what I noticed. It was my takeaway. When he was down on the block, when he was in the paint, and it was him against Hunter Dickinson, which it was often in that game, not only did he hold his own, he won some of those battles. Like, that happened that way. I watched it, and he was able to score. And in camp, he imposed his will at times against Hunter Dickinson as well. He showed me a lot in that environment against that level of talent with the McDonald's All-Americans. Summit League Player of the Year was like a role guy for them. Like, the level of talent on that team. Kampe, I walked away really impressed with our front court.
Yeah, and you should. It was good. Now, I'd have liked to seen it better. It took a little bit early in the game.
Yeah.
But again, our use of that type of physicality is a whistleblowing and a call, right? And that just wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen early in that game. And it's funny, I said something, and the 3 officials were really good officials, and I know them, and they're big-time officials, obviously, to be there. And I said to one, isn't the rule that he can put his arm on Allen, but he can't extend it? And he goes, yeah, that's the rule. And I go, so when he's doing this to him, I said, that should be a foul, right? And he goes, yeah, we're going to get that. We're going to get that. We've told him. We're going to get that.
Fair.
We're still waiting for him to get it. But it's just, that's what you get when you go play that game. And Kansas is paying us $100,000 to play the game, so I'm not going to bitch about some calls.
Right.
Not there, anyway. I might hear on the show. Just while I'm there, I'm not going to.
No, but Kampe, and again, you and I touched on this in the post-game interview for the people that were listening to the broadcast as well. And I found myself a couple of times, Camp, when we're away at commercial break, that is one of the meccas, not only of college basketball, that is one of the meccas of American sports. If you are a sports fan, if you're a college basketball fan, you owe it to the game to go there and watch a game. It is incredible. The fans are lined up for hours before the game to get in. Once they're in, they're all sitting down. They do not leave. They never leave. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I actually asked a couple of, I usually go and talk to the students just to find out, and I asked them how they were in the front row, and I asked how they got that seat, and there's a lottery, and before every game there's a lottery, and you can have 5 people in a group. Somebody's got to go in and pull out a thing, and then you've got to be there 3 hours beforehand, and they'll call your name out, and if you're not there, they'll give your seat to somebody else. So they got it going on there, man. It is, and I've said that here, I've said that in our calls with our season ticket holders, that if you ever get a chance to go there, you have to do it. You owe it to yourself to go, because there's nothing else like it. And we've played everywhere, everywhere.
Literally.
Yes, and there's nothing like it.
No, it was an incredible environment. There is no doubt. We'll take our first break. When we come back, I'll be joined by Trey McDonald. He's the new assistant coach for the Golden Grizzlies here on staff this year. So we'll sit down with Trey. He's a funny guy, man. I've enjoyed traveling with him in this little bit. He did go to Ohio State though and played there. So the room will hold that against you a little bit, I'm sure, Trey. But we'll overcome it. You got the personality to overcome it. So certainly we will do that when we come back. Your questions with the hashtag AskCampy, all of that and more. You're listening to the Oakland Basketball Show. We're live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills, brought to you by Henry Ford.
Your Oakland University Golden Grizzlies.
Drives the basket, and it's in!
The biggest games on the blacktop.
4-3. Of course! Borowski from 3!
We need you there.
Golden Grizzlies fans, get out your dancing shoes!
Your Oakland University Golden Grizzlies.
Drives the basket, and it's in!
The biggest games on the blacktop.
4-3. Of course! Borowski from 3!
We need you there.
Golden Grizzlies fans, get out your dancing shoes!
Live in Rochester Hills at RJ's Pub. My name is Neil Rule, the voice of the Golden Grizzlies. Right now, as promised, we are joined by the new assistant coach for the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. It is Trey McDonald. And Trey, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming up here and paying us a visit. How you doing, man? How you like being on the Oakland Basketball Show so far?
Just got here, so I'm having fun already, so it's a good experience.
No, absolutely. And Trey, I've gotten to know you a little bit, and I'll say this, Trey. You don't get to know somebody like the way you do when you travel with them. You know what I mean? Like we're trapped in a bus together, we're trapped on a plane together. There is no escape, Trey.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun stories. They all come from the road, and like me and you, we got some jokes, and just being with the guys, and Bobby, his energy is electric. So when I was here, I was kind of reserved, kind of shy, just being around Bobby, man. I'm coming off the shell all the time.
You are.
Just getting more comfortable with everybody and everything. So he's been a big help for me.
Trey, you're what was the path? How did you end up here at Oakland? For those that don't know, Trey played at Ohio State, played over 100 games for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Very accomplished player. Trey, kind of carve your path here to Oakland.
I actually started coaching high school at Laurie Norris in Kalamazoo. I did that for 5 years, and then I wanted to transition to get into the college ranks. So a good friend of mine, Ryan Nadeau, he's assistant coach now at Old Dominion. He got me down at Virginia Tech, and he introduced me to Coach Young, and it was like one of the best decisions ever to go down there and work for Coach Young and work with those guys. I had a great chance to learn from a great coach and be around good people down there in Blacksburg. And from there, I had the opportunity to come here, and it was just a no-brainer.
And here you are. But Trey, what about that too? Just learning Virginia Tech. You're over there in the ACC, high level of basketball. What's the biggest thing that you learned to prepare you to be an assistant coach?
The biggest thing I learned is the attention to detail and how important scouting is. When you got players that are that talented and coaches that are that accomplished and have been doing it for so long, all the little details become very important. And end of the day, it's about the players and putting those guys in the best position and working those guys out and getting them better. So I just really took that from my time at Virginia Tech. It's that time that it takes to be really good, and the attention and all the aspects that it goes into being an actual coach.
Since you were a player and you played at that high level and you brought up scouting as a player. Do you wish maybe, because here's what I noticed, like with players, and you give them the scouting report and they go over it and you go over stuff, and you know where I'm going with this question right now. If Trey McDonald, the coach, could go back and talk to Trey McDonald, the player, what would he say?
I would say pay attention. First of all, that would be the first thing I would say. Yeah, it's a lot different. It's a totally different experience being on this side of the game, to be honest. And when you're there and you're 18 or 20 and you're reading that scout, you're like, all right, coach said you can go with his right hand. But there's so much that goes into just getting those clips and picking out the perfect information to show a player. So I made a joke, of course, like just pay attention, but honestly, just like digging in and actually learning that stuff, it would have made us like way better defensively. We were actually really good in defense in my time in Ohio State, but maybe not. It wasn't because of me. I was just out there doing my part, but yeah, just locking in more and realizing how important that stuff is. Because as a player, especially there, like I felt invincible. Like it didn't matter what other teams were doing, but now I realize like that stuff is like a huge deal and a huge part of the game.
No, absolutely. Talking with Trey McDonald here, the newest assistant coach on Greg Kampe's staff for the Oakland basketball program. And Trey, your thoughts so far on this season? Because I'll be honest with Camp. I'll be honest with you. When we were walking out of Boise, I was like, oh no. But it was such a bolt of energy. That effort against Illinois, and then it was validated, I thought, with the effort against Kansas. In your chair, what did it look like the last two games?
I think you hit it on the head. I think we all left Boise kind of, wide eyes and not knowing what to expect the next game. But like you just talked about, when we went to Illinois, it kind of let us know that, we can play. We got good players. Our coaching staff does a great job. We just listen to Coach Camp, we'll be fine, And if you didn't believe in the zone then, before that game, like after Illinois and definitely Kansas, you have to believe in it now. And I think now our guys are like completely bought in. They're bought into like that, giving that effort and playing really hard and being aggressive in the zone and having fun making mistakes and things like that. So I just think, like you said, We got a little taste of it in Illinois, and then we found out it's real with Kansas. And we knew if we had played that second half like we did the first, it would have been probably a different result.
You played over 100 games in the Big Ten, so obviously you played at the highest level, the highest levels of the highest level.
Yeah.
So you've been in that environment before.
Right.
You've been at a Kansas, or you've been at a Breslin, and you've had kind of the ceiling caving in on you, I'm sure, at times. Because of that, and again, going back to what I talked about with camp, to be in that environment at Kansas, where 17,000 people are just waiting for an excuse to blow the roof off that building, we just never gave it to them. And you've been on teams, man, that were high level, that opportunity did happen, where the roof did get blown off the place, and the next thing you know, how do you hold on like that in those situations?
I think it just comes down to like the players and their willingness to listen and execute the game plan, and like not giving up, because a couple of those plays, a couple of those dunks, it's easy to just hang your head, and then that 15 goes to 30 quick, especially with all that talent out there. So I just think that's a real testament to the players. The players kept playing, the coaches kept coaching. Coach Camp, always giving those guys confidence. I just think that's like the biggest part, and especially in an environment like that. Malcolm Christie had those free throws, and I was just looking down there, and I'm thinking about myself sitting there shooting those free throws, and I'm not a chance. So like I don't know how, but sometimes I look at the stuff our guys do in some of the environments they play in, I was like, wow, So I think overall it's just the players and their ability to not give up and to fight through tough situations. And like I told them in the locker room, I was proud of them just because like that could have gotten way worse, especially with the first half, and then coming back in that second half and battling and challenging themselves like the way they did. I think that's a big step for us.
Talking with Trey McDonald here, the newest assistant coach on Coach Kampe's staff, and to shed some light, because I know everyone in this room was listening on the radio, because that's what they do. They listen on the radio. They're not watching on TV for sure. No, but for those that were listening on the radio, just to kind of give you some evidence of what you're looking at a free throw in Kansas, their student section is split up behind both baskets, and what they do, they have a routine where random students will pop their head up almost like the whack-a-mole game, like when you're standing over there and you got to hit the mole, and they'll just pop up at different. It's I've never seen anything like that before. It's wild.
Man, they have some great traditions there, and just seeing how early those students got there when we pulled up on the bus, and seeing them already be there, and how they ran to their seats, to get ready. Like there was urgency in that run to get to those seats. Like it was competitive to get there, and they had some great traditions. They cheered the whole game, and no one left early.
Yeah, it's
it was crazy. It's a once in a lifetime experience, and whenever people ask me, because like you said, I played so many places, like, what's the best basketball environment in the world? I always say it's Kansas.
Yeah. Trey, what have you learned, like as far as honing your career, and ultimately where every coach that gets in this business wants to be a head coach, I would assume. What have you taken from your short time so far with Greg Kampe? What's one thing that you've kind of picked up on that you said, all right, if I ever am fortunate enough to get a head coaching job, this is something that I'm going to do myself?
My favorite thing about Coach Camp so far is his ability to focus on the big things and not worry about the small things. I think so much time as coaches we worry about every little thing, as far as like what the players wear and what they do or how they act or something, like some certain aspects like that. But I think he does a great job of just letting the players be themselves, and then he just coaches them up. And it sounds so simple, but I noticed it with Coach Young, and then I got confirmed with Coach Kampe. It's just worry about the main important things that you need to worry about, and then the rest just fall into place.
No doubt about it. I guess, Trey, before as we get this thing wrapped up, and as you look ahead and the game of college basketball, and you played, going on about 10 years ago, right? Give or take, about 8 years ago.
You aged me out right there, but yeah, about 10 years ago.
What have you noticed, because this sport has changed a lot from 8 months ago, let alone 8 years ago. Right. As you look at it, Trey, how have you seen the evolution of college basketball, and kind of your thoughts on where it's going?
I mean, from when I played, it's so different. Just the shooting aspect. All teams shoot now. That wasn't the case when I played. It was more about being physical and getting downhill to the hole and being athletic. I'm noticing now like every team shoots. The big man shoot. The skill level is just a lot different than what it was. I mean, there was a guy like me playing at Ohio State, so like just the skill level is just totally different nowadays. That's just an overall evolution of the game. You need to have that skill to survive out there. And like I said, it's just totally different than what my experience was. You know, a lot of it is in transition now. A lot less play calls, a lot more free flowing because it's coming from the NBA game. Most players want to go to the NBA, so that's what they're practicing in high school, pick and roll. So it's just a lot different than what I experienced when I came through college.
No, that's interesting you bring that up because I've always felt like now the game it's 5 guys that are 6'6" and can all shoot, and they're all kind of clones of each other. They can defend a little bit, shoot a little bit, handle a little bit, and then you just kind of find your matchup and you go forward. Am I warm with that?
Yeah, you're warm. I think if you listen to anyone's recruiting video or any coach speak about their players, the first word you'll hear them say, buzzword, is versatile.
You're right.
He's a versatile player, play multiple positions, and that's what you really need. You need players who can guard, first of all, and play multiple positions on the court. Then it makes it tough. Then you get a lot of mismatches, you get a lot of tough matchups. So I think being limited offensively, it just hurts you. You know, teams aren't really defensive teams anymore. It's more about scoring a ton of points and getting up and down.
No, that is it. Well, Trey, man, that wasn't so bad, was it? We did okay.
So bad. Y'all don't see me sweating up here. So good.
No, absolutely. Trey, man, I appreciate the time. I'm glad you're here. Certainly you're an asset, man, and we'll keep chopping it up on the road, man. All right, there it is, everybody. Mr. Trey McDonald, our newest assistant coach for the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. We'll take a break, come back. It's Ask Kampe time. So send your tweets with the hashtag Ask Kampe. If you're watching on YouTube, the questions are piling in on YouTube right now as well. If you got a question for Coach, speak now or forever hold your peace, at least until next week. This is the Oakland Basketball Show, brought to you by Henry Ford. We're live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills.
In sport, your Oakland University Golden Grizzlies.
Drives the basket, and it's in.
The biggest games on the blacktop.
4-3. Of course. Borowski from screen.
We need you there.
Golden Grizzlies fans, get out your dancing shoes.
Oakland University Golden Grizzlies.
Drives the basket, and it's in.
The biggest games on the blacktop.
4-3. Of course. Borowski from screen.
We need you there.
Golden Grizzlies fans, get out your dancing shoes.
This is the Oakland Basketball Show. He is the coach, Greg Kampe. My name is Neil Rule. Happy to have you with us wherever you're watching on YouTube, listening on 1270 AM, the Bet 97.1 HD3 as well. We appreciate it. You're home for Golden Grizzlies basketball all season long. The Oakland Basketball Show is also brought to you by the Pino Insurance Agency, LLC of Memic Insurance. They cater to the educational market. If you're looking for affordable insurance and a knowledgeable insurance agency, go online to Pino Insurance, Pino insurance.com today. Camp, just about ready to rock here for the Ask Kampe portion of it. You had something else you wanted to say?
Two things. I'm not on.
Now you are.
No, I'm on. Okay, two things. One is the Pino Agency.
Pino
Agency. I went with them when I got here. That was 1984. They're still alive.
You're the Tigers, man.
Wow.
But yeah, well, they still take your check, right?
They must be real good. And then the second thing is, when you have those interviews with coaches, instead of asking them what they've learned from me, you should ask them what they've learned not to do. Because I think as a young coach, when you're just starting, you know, that's the biggest thing you can learn from coaches is what not to do. You know, what do they see that they don't like? Because, you know, I remember myself. You know, I had the best coach in the history of the Mid-American Conference when I was an assistant at Toledo, Bob Nichols, and why is he doing that? And you know, and so like I got these things I'm not going to do, and then I become a head coach, and you find out real fast why he's doing that stuff. You know, because you think these ideas, now they don't work. You know, now I get why he was doing that. So that's probably a better question to ask. Put him on a spot like that in front of me, and what'd you want him to say?
Well, Bobby Naubert, if you're listening right now, I'm sure your episode will be coming up. I'll be going in on that, Bob. So and Smitty too.
Right.
Smitty too. You're not immune to it, Colin. If you're ever up here, you're getting that too. So everybody be ready for that going forward. You ready for the Ask Campy portion of the show?
I am.
All right. How about this from the YouTube stream, Camp? We got multiple facets available. 248 Sports Media. What's Coach's favorite food? You get a lot of food questions.
Yeah. I mean, I think that my favorite food, and you know, obviously the way my life has changed in the last year and a half with weight and that, I can't eat what my real favorites are. You know, I'm a gas station guy. I mean, I go in there, that'd be great. But I would tell you that if I had to pick a last meal and I wasn't making it, it would probably be Alaskan king crab.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
That was you were there in Alaska, right?
Yep.
On that trip. Wow. Someday I'll tell that story. That meal was But I'm an Alaska king crab. If I'm making the meal myself, though, I make restaurant good lobster fettuccine or lobster risotto.
Yes, you do.
Lobster risotto.
Can confirm.
Yes.
Shout out Card Night at your house.
Yes. My lobster risotto, I think, is my number one. I would do that.
I would agree. Robert Noiva on the YouTube stream says, can Coach talk about what he expects from the Horizon League this year? Seems to be a lot of coaching turnover.
Yeah, that's a good question. And, you know, I've tried to watch everybody play. I've seen Detroit. I've seen Robert Morris. I've seen Northern Kentucky. I've seen Wright State, Green Bay, Milwaukee. I've seen Indianapolis, and I've seen Fort Wayne. So I think I might be missing Cleveland State. I've seen everybody play, so I think I have a pretty good idea. It's different because we have 5 new coaches, and you know, so I think it's hard in your first year. I don't care if you're taking over, you know, you were an assistant there or not. I think it's hard. I think it's hard with all the changing. I think you got to look at Fort Wayne. Because they didn't lose, you know, they lost a senior, I think, one good starter, Roberts, and the rest of them all came back, which is so unheard of in this era. And they had 2 all-league level players that came back, and Bello was the player of the week this week in the league. So I think that you have to start. It starts with Fort Wayne. I think Milwaukee was picked, you know, to win with them. And I think that's more based on the, quote, recruiting class they had. They brought in a transfer from Queens College that averaged 18 a game. Queens is in a Division I school in the South where their coach had come from. So they brought him in at 18 a game. And so I think there was this hype because of him. But they lost B.J. Freeman.
Right.
And he was a hell of a player.
I was watching him. I forget what Power 5 he's at.
Arizona State, I think.
Yeah, we were watching him in the hotel the other night.
So, you know, I don't think there's you know, Trey left. It's not going to be an easy transition. Freeman left there. I think Wright State's probably playing the best in the league right now, and that's because they have 2 veterans in Hubricks and Noel. You know, Noel was a preseason player of the year in the league. He's 6'10", and Hubricks is, you know, he should have been playing for me. I mean, he could shoot that rock, man. But those 2 guys are playing all league level basketball right now. They went to Miami of Ohio and beat them, took Toledo to the buzzer, and we're going to see them in 2 weeks. So, we're going to get them out of the gate. I think Northern Kentucky's trying to find themselves. Youngstown had a double overtime loss at Syracuse Saturday.
Should have had that game, yeah.
So, I just don't think in November, I think going forward in college basketball, I think November's going to be the scratch your head month. You're going to see things you just don't understand because of all these new players and changing schools and that, and the teams that grow and get better are going to be good. So right now, I don't think there's a bad team in the league. Like, we've had a couple bad ones the last couple of years. I don't see that, having watched everybody. I think Detroit is, they were Toledo tied at halftime the other day. So I think they've made huge steps forward. I think that's good for the league, and it's good if you want to win the league, because you always need teams to get beat, right? Yep. So that means some teams are going to be able to beat you. Now they can beat us too, but they can also beat anybody on a given night when you need somebody to do that.
Let's get to this one, and this one was missed in the shuffle from last week from MD Fun 89, who's in the house here tonight. Ask Kampe, an update on the practice facility.
Yeah, and we talked about that after the show last week. That's a really good question. I am in meetings. Colin is heavily involved in it also. Coach Tungate's heavily involved in it. The construction's going. I have been told that we will be in it in the last week of June. And so we were hoping to be able to use the actual practice, not the locker rooms and the offices and all that, but just the practice facility, the basketball court. We were hoping to get in there and over Christmas, because the arena shuts down for a week with graduation. And we always, whenever we play Michigan State, we're always practicing at Rochester College or University, Rochester Christian University, or we go down to the Piston practice facility now and then, although the NBA rules are changing and we really can't get in there now, or we've gone to high schools. And every year we play Michigan State, we're prepping to play them in a high school gym or someplace. It's always kind of not the best.
Right.
And so we were hoping to be able to get in there during that week, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I'm okay with that. As long as we're in there the last week of June, when next year's team reports the last week of June, we're in there full go, offices, locker rooms, nutrition bar, video room, all the things that you need to compete that we've never had.
Right.
It'll be exciting. So once we get it open, we might even run a radio show from there one night or something, so we'll be able to show people it.
Pittsburgh Marty in the house. Camp, now you're in your 41st year as a head coach, and after your teams have amassed 700 victories, also 500 losses, what's 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would offer to a Division I head coach who might be struggling in their first year in the role?
That's a lot of losses. And probably they won't survive that.
Well, if they win 700 against the 500 losses, they'll make it.
It's an interesting question, because usually those young coaches, they don't want to, as I kind of was talking about your question earlier, they don't want, and I was the same way. I'll tell a quick story, maybe this will make you understand it better. So I'm 28 years old, and the Detroit Pistons are practicing in our facility at 10 o'clock, and we go at 1. So I go in there every day, and I watch practice every day. I got to know all those coaches. But early on, I went up to date Chuck Daly, and, they're only world champions, right? They weren't yet, but they were on their way to being. Mm-hmm. And I said, Coach, hey, I need a baseline out-of-bounds play. Give me your best one. We were just talking. So back in the old days, now if you can imagine this would never happen today, but in Lepley Sports Center, there were 2 chalkboards in the wall. They were actually in the wall, chalkboards. And he took a piece of white chalk out, and he drew up this play. And I looked at him. I'm 28 years old. He's Chuck Daly. And I said, yeah, but if you do... And he looks at me and goes, you asked me for a play, and now you're going to tell me what I should be doing? And yeah, I was. That's usually what young coaches are like. So I don't think they're going to listen to me until, until they struggle a little bit, and then they might ask questions. But Marty, the biggest thing you got to believe in yourself, you got to believe in what you do, but you got to be smart enough to know if something's not working to have alternatives. And never take yourself too seriously, and understand that the kids win, you don't.
Well said. Well said. Austin Davis, who's here in the house as well, asked Kampe, was there any food highlights from the extended road trip last week?
No, were there? I didn't really eat with the team.
The Japanese steakhouse was fun.
Oh, that was. We went to one of the Japanese steakhouses where they do all the tricks and throw the shrimp in your head, and throw it. Some players couldn't catch it and some could. They tried to throw it at me. I'd put my hand up and caught it. I wasn't going to have it bounce off my nose.
And not get the chance to eat it, right?
Right. Yeah. There's a piece of shrimp. You wouldn't eat that.
They're not gambling with that.
Yeah. No, Again, one of the things I've started to do over the years is I've kind of pulled away. I don't really eat and do things like that with them because I get mad about things, like I just get mad if I see something that I shouldn't see, like a player sneaking a drink of a pop or something like that. I gotta let them. That's kind of what Trey said here. I try and just let them be them and try and don't hang out. So. I sneak around and get my own food.
Yeah. Nick Lucido, who's also here in the house. And this is a good one, Camp. And next week, obviously, we do the Thanksgiving week show, but this is a good appetizer for that. I want all the food questions next week because Camp's Thanksgiving week show is electric. Nick Lucido, with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, Coach, if Thanksgiving were a basketball game, which dish is the MVP and which one rides the bench?
Well, I can tell you, green bean casserole ain't even getting dressed.
Did not play coach's decision.
You're not even going out there. You're staying in the locker room. I would tell you that my jalapeno mashed potatoes would be that's the MVP. So
that was the very first recipe you ever gave out on the Oakland basketball show. The jalapeno mashed potatoes. We had people try it and sent back in there. Yeah, they said they liked it. Yeah, 100%. You'll have to give that one out. That one out next week. Joe Mosheri says, "Ask Kampe after such a tough road stretch, how do you make sure the players aren't downing themselves? How do you keep things positive despite losses?"
Well, I think we're good at that because this is not just one year that we do it. We play like this every year. We schedule like this all the time, and you talk to them about our team last year. That's the closest one. You got 2 or 3 guys that were on that team, and you talk about your loss at Ohio State, your loss at Illinois, and then all of a sudden you beat Xavier. And then don't forget, right after the Michigan State game, Dayton beat us.
Badly. Yeah.
They beat us worse than maybe the Boise game is as bad as it's been, but kind of similar to Boise.
Yep.
And you just learn from it, and those are the games that got us to be able to beat Kentucky and go to overtime with North Carolina State. You can't just go play that team a team like that for the first time when you're not used to the physicality, you're not used to the scouting report, and it's for example, we're not going to play at 60 possessions when we play Eastern Michigan Thursday. But if we're going to beat Kansas, we're going to play at 60 possessions. And so you've just got to be there and do it. You just can't show up in March and say, we're going to beat these guys. It's not going to happen. You have to play that. And then the other thing is, Illinois guarded us different than Kansas guarded us, than Boise guarded us. And they guarded us with physicality. And Cleveland State's going to try and guard us with physicality. Well, as physical as they are, they're not as physical as Kansas. And so we saw that we could do things, and what guys did against that when we get against Cleveland State or we get against a team that plays like that, we know we can have success. Even though we lost the game, we know we can run this play. We know we can do this. Allen knows if he can score against 7'1" Hunter Dickinson, he can score against anybody in our league. And so those are, you don't look at the negatives, you take all the positives. And I told them today when we convened and we looked at a couple of the clips from the Kansas game, I told them, I said, on a neutral court, I'll play them in March.
You take your chances, yeah.
I think that we could go, and we surely could. I'm not sitting here saying we're going to go beat Kansas, but if they're in our bracket, I would not be afraid to go play them again, especially on a neutral court. And Kansas people are going to say, "You're an idiot." Why would you say something like that? Well, they got to play the game, and they've got to believe in themselves. And so you foster that by things you say and things you do.
Camp, I got one for you here. This kind of backs up to something Trey talked about when he was on, and then kind of points that you brought up, because I've seen this with you, because I've been here, so I've seen it firsthand. Coaches get set in the things that they do, right? Especially when it's brought them a lot of success in taking programs to high heights. Some coaches get stuck in the way that they do things, and people in life, they get stuck in the way that they do things. I've noticed you throughout the years, you have, in a very controlling business where you are the head, you're the CEO of the program, you're willing to give up some control, you're willing to try different things, you're willing to let guys be the way that they are, maybe more than coaches would have in the past. Why do you do that? Why did you try that? And I know why, but how were you able to do that, Camp, in a business where a lot of times people have control and they do things the way they do things, and that's it?
Well, the biggest reason is I want to win, and there's nothing else I would say that I want to win. I'm not at Duke. I'm not at Kansas. I don't get to go out and handpick my players, say you're coming. And in this day and age, I don't have a $20 million payroll to go pay the players to come. And so you have to look at who you've got, and you've got to figure out how to play so they can win. And now we are recruiting to the zone. That's probably the one thing over time that we've tried to do, and that's to recruit to the zone. We're 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", along. But even that, if we can't play it, we're not going to play it. We're going to, we'll play something else, because I just want to win. And I'm not stubborn. I know that I'm not the smartest coach that ever lived. I know that I'm not the greatest coach that ever lived. I know that I'm not anywhere in that area code at all. I just want to win. And so that's everything we do is what's the best way to win. I also think that, if you don't have a staff that's engaged, you're not going to win. And the only way to engage your staff is to let them coach. And if you come watch our practice, our coaches are engaged, and they coach, and there's expectations on them to coach, and I get angry with them if they don't. And I also think that I learned a lot in life, and one of the things I've learned is nobody wants to hear the same voice over and over again. It's just like this radio show. That's why I want somebody here for 15, a fourth of the segment, because you don't want to hear me for an hour every week, and you want to hear other voices. And I think as an 18 to 23-year-old kid, my voice can become hard to listen to. And so you need the other guy. You need a Trey, you need a Smitty, you need Bobby, you need Colin, you need those people in there speaking to them so they hear another voice, and it's not just always mine. I just think that's the way you win. And in all honesty, I just want to win.
Well said. Let's take the last break. We'll come back, take a look ahead to what's up this week for the Oakland basketball program. You're listening to the Oakland Basketball Show live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills.
Your Oakland University Golden Grizzlies.
Drives to the basket, and it's in!
The biggest games on the blacktop.
For three. Of course! Borowski from three!
We need you there.
Golden Grizzlies fans, get out your dancing shoes!
We'll be right back.
your Oakland University Golden Grizzlies.
Drives the basket, it's in!
The biggest games on the blacktop.
4-3. Of course! Borowski from 3!
We need you there.
Golden Grizzlies fans, get out your dancing shoes!
The Oakland Basketball Show. He is Coach Greg Kampe. My name is Neil Rule. Happy to have you with us. Brought to you by Henry Ford Health and Camp this week. Just the one game at the O Arena coming up on Thursday night. Love to see everybody. Go to goldengrizzlies.com to get your tickets. Eastern Michigan, Thursday night, 7 o'clock. And we'll have to remember where the blacktop's at, but I'm sure we'll all find our way there.
Well, our last 3 games were in front of 11,000 and 16,000 and 16,000. So let's make sure that it's not in front of 600, okay? Let's make sure that we get the people there. And Eastern, the last time we played Eastern here, it was sold out. It was Rocket Watts versus Amani Bates, and it was an overtime win for the
That game was a movie, Cam. That was a classic arena game.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable game, sold out. Rocket. I still remember Trey Townsend blocking a shot in overtime, maybe twice on the same possession. That was a hell of a game. So we got Eastern Michigan coming back in here. Obviously, we recruit against them. It's local. It's an important game. It's one we got to get. It's our first game against a quote like opponent, and our win is against a team that obviously you have to win those games, and then 3 games against top 30. So let's find out about us now. We're sitting here, we talked all for the last hour about what we think we could be, and now we've got an opportunity to show what we can be.
It's only 2 more games, Camp, then it's Horizon League play. It's wild how fast it happens.
Yeah, and you're playing 3 games now before Christmas in league play, and because we're up to 20 league games instead of the 18 that it used to be. And so, we got to get Isaiah back. Next Monday's a big day for him. He gets the boot off and he gets the x-ray, and we'll find out. If all goes good next Monday, he could possibly, with an outside chance, play in the Wright State game. If it's not perfect, then he won't probably play until Michigan State. Or maybe later, depending on what the x-ray shows. So I'm hoping for the best, but yeah, it's hard to believe. The next 4 games we've got, and that's one thing. I forgot to say it when I was talking about the guy who asked the question about, how do you keep them playing in that, and the way the schedule's set up. We just played those 3 games. Now we get 2 league games, 2 games, then we get Michigan State. So all the frustration and we blew our chance here, we had this. No, we got Michigan State, right? And then after, we go in Christmas, we go out, we got Loyola and possibly Nebraska, possibly
Oregon State.
We might get more chances. And then we go to Arkansas. So they're going to get more chances to get that, that coveted win in a game like that and prove that they can. But right now, we got to just take what we've learned. We got to get better defensively, and we got to start making some shots. And Eastern Michigan's a chance to do that. Eastern's a very good defensive team, though. That's their strength. They're struggling a little bit offensively. They got the point guard from DePaul that transferred. We really wanted him. We went really hard after him and didn't get him. So we're gonna have to guard that kid. He's at 28 and 26 in his last 2 games. Jason Terry, is that his name?
Yeah. Jalen Terry.
Yeah.
Jason Terry played in the NBA for a while. Yeah.
Right. And his sister played at Oakland, played for our women's team. So we really wanted him, and it ended up he didn't come. So there'll be some emotion about that. And should be a really good basketball game.
Speaking of things that you really want, what is it about the nachos here at RJ's Pub? You see them at the table over there to the left? Like it sits in that mound. It's like a mound of perfection, Cam.
Can they put that on air so people can see that?
They got the ones. I think they got the cameras are static. I think we'll have to work on that.
Neil, you're supposed to be asking questions and talking about basketball, and you're staring at somebody else's food.
Look at it, Cam. There, see?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, you look at you. You're like, you're staring at it as you're locked into the TV screen right there looking at it. I mean, it is like...
The difference between you and I is I'm going to walk by and ask if I can have some.
That is true. No, but I mean, like, look at how perfect that looks. Like, it's almost criminal to eat it, man. Like, but you would.
But with my new diet, my favorite food here now is the chicken dumpling soup.
It's electric.
It's really good. Yeah.
It is really good.
Over the fries.
Final minute of the show, Camp. Any final words here?
No, we'll be back next Monday. We'll talk about Eastern Michigan and then Toledo and then the league. So it's the good for us is that because the Thanksgiving tournament is at Christmas instead of Thanksgiving this year, that we have time between these games. We got 3 good practice days before we play Eastern, then we get a week of practice before we play Toledo, and then we get another 3 days before those 2 league games. So at the time that you're trying to get better and learn, for once we actually have practice time to do that instead of 9 games and then 2 days of practice.
All right, well, that will do it. Big thank you to a fine Oakland man, Greg Hessen, back there at the 1270 The Bet Studios. Big thank you to everybody for coming out and rocking the place, as you always do, and everybody here at RJ's Pub as well. For the Coach Greg Kampe, my name's Neil Rule. Thanks for coming out and listening to the Oakland Basketball Show.
Let's go have some nachos.
Let's go have some nachos. Well, see those nachos later.